If you're experiencing muscle cramps, eyelid or muscle twitching, blood sugar issues, heart palpitations, arrhythmias, anxiety, numbness or tingling, low energy, or high blood pressure, you're not alone, because I was too. And even though these things might seem like separate issues with separate causes, they're all very connected. And one of the primary things that links them all together is a very important mineral known as magnesium. So there was a time in the not so distant past where I was super deficient in magnesium, and I had every single one of those issues and then some. My magnesium deficiency was so severe that it was driving down my potassium, despite me eating mounds of bananas and taking potassium supplements. Now through all that, I ended up developing supraventricular tachycardia, which, if you're unfamiliar, it's where your heart beats extremely fast, but the beats are very inefficient. So you almost pass out constantly and basically feel like you're having a heart attack 24/7. That is not fun, not a fun experience. And I dealt with that for a while. I mean, we're talking like the better part of a year. And the harsh reality is that most Americans, and I'm talking like anywhere from 50 to 80%, are deficient in magnesium. And the worst part about that is that most people don't have any idea they're deficient. And there's a lot of reasons for that. A primary reason is because modern food is completely devoid of pretty much all nutrients. We used to get magnesium through food. Fruits, vegetables, plants, meats, and specifically seafood all contain high levels of magnesium. But now in the modern age, the plants, vegetables, and fruits that used to contain the highest levels of magnesium are now grown in nutrient depleted soil that's doused in synthetic fertilizer. So the uptake of this very important mineral is pretty much non-existent. Any amount that actually does make its way into the plant isn't very bioavailable. So when you eat these foods, the phytochemicals, aka plant toxins or anti-nutrients, bind to the minerals and inhibit your body's ability to absorb them. Bottom line is that modern food has around 90% less nutrients than it did 100 years ago, and the 10% that's left is not being absorbed, so that is not good. We also used to get magnesium from drinking real water, meaning drinking water straight from the earth from rivers, streams, and springs. Today, water is completely dead because they strip everything out of it, and then they replace it with synthetic minerals that your body can't absorb. Also not good. Another way we used to get it is from being in contact with the earth, because transdermal absorption, aka absorbing it through your skin, is one of the best ways to absorb magnesium. But since we all wear shoes and no one actually sticks their feet in the dirt, that pretty much went out the window. So the only thing we're left with is meat, and that's pretty much it. But the issue with that, because of course there is an issue, is that meat has been demonized for the last 50 years, and now the average American consumes about half the amount of red meat they used to. And instead of eating meat, we eat mounds of hyperprocessed toxic foods that provide zero nutritional value and definitely don't contain magnesium. Not good. So couple that with the fact that most Americans take prescription drugs that are known to deplete magnesium. Most Americans are chronically stressed, which also depletes magnesium. And around 80% of Americans drink alcohol, which also severely depletes magnesium. The result is a population that is severely deficient. At this point, we are a ticking time bomb for developing metabolic disease, mood disorders, heart disease, and a bunch of other really bad health outcomes that can be linked back to magnesium deficiency, because magnesium is responsible for over 300 extremely important processes within the body. So when it gets out of whack, things can go downhill very fast. And the problem with that is that you probably won't know you're deficient until you're extremely deficient. And by that point, you've just assumed a whole lot of risk. One of the things that ties into this is the way they test for it. Most testing is done using a blood sample. But the issue with that, because of course there always has to be an issue, is that your body will do everything it can to maintain optimal blood serum levels. Because if it gets too low, you literally have a heart attack and die. Think widowmaker heart attack with no chance of resuscitation. Your heart cramps and you cease to exist. That's the type of stuff we're talking about here. Your body will mine it from your tissues and even your bones to keep blood serum levels in check. So that makes these tests highly unreliable. So you're better off going off symptoms or getting a hair sample done. And speaking of mining it from your body, some of the highest concentrations of magnesium in your body is found very specifically in the left ventricle of your heart. This is extremely concerning for people who are severely deficient, because if your body gets to the point that it's mining magnesium, it will mine it from there. And this can lead to very serious heart conditions such as arrhythmias, myocardial infarction, and left ventricle dysfunction, as well as the possibility of sudden death from something like the widowmaker heart attack that I just mentioned. You do not want to get to this point. I had a friend who dealt with this, and it was absolutely terrible. Now, he had been suffering for years, and one day out of the blue, he just happened to mention it to me. And as soon as he did, I had him try the magnesium therapy that I use to fix my heart, the one I'm going to share with you in this video, and it resolved his issues, just like it did mine. Now, for him specifically, he had been on proton pump inhibitors for years and years. And that's one of those prescription drugs I mentioned earlier that's notorious for depleting magnesium. If you're on one of those drugs, you're probably deficient. So really, it all boils down to the fact that our current environment breeds magnesium deficiency. And having magnesium deficiency means that your health is going to suffer. And when your health suffers, your magnesium levels tank even more. And considering the health of our nation is already in a free fall, this is not a good scenario. So it makes sense that we try to optimize magnesium as much as possible, especially if we think we're deficient. Now, when I started to fix mine, it was a real struggle, all right? Now, I bought into the mainstream propaganda and I started eating mounds of spinach, dark chocolate, nuts, seeds, and all that stuff that's supposed to be super high in magnesium. I ate so much spinach one day that my kidneys literally felt like they were gonna shut down. That's no joke, all right? Not good. And that was due to all the oxalates I was consuming that no one ever mentioned. And it lasted about 24 hours before I was able to drink enough water and flush all that stuff out. Too many oxalates can cause permanent damage. Do not do what I did, all right? Learn from my mistakes and avoid these foods because oxalates and phytochemicals in these foods block the absorption of magnesium, and the only thing you're left with is a bunch of nutrient void, bowel blocking fiber that is not doing you any favors. Do not recommend. So after a whole lot of trial and error and trying to get magnesium from healthy foods, I went with what everyone else suggests, which is supplements. Now, it's important to understand that not all forms of magnesium are created equal. All right, there are many different kinds and some work better than others. But generally speaking, when it comes to supplements, magnesium oxide is going to be the least bioavailable, while citrate, glycinate, and taurate have better bioavailability. So I ended up buying Triple Com Magnesium from Amazon. All right, this has 3 different kinds of magnesium in it: taurate, malate, and glycinate. And taking this immediately told me that my heart issue was due to an underlying and very severe magnesium deficiency, because 15 minutes after I took it, my heart, for the first time in a very long time, actually regulated. The abnormal rhythm resolved, the insane pounding like I was running a marathon resolved, and everything felt at ease. Even my anxiety started to fade away. And when that happened, I almost cried, because up to this point, my life had been absolute hell. All right, every second of every day was torture and torment, and this little pill suddenly fixed it. Now, keep in mind that by this point, my cardiologist had already told me that there was nothing I could do to fix it, and he was pushing me to get a pacemaker and have an ablation done. And this one little pill basically fixed my issue. Now, unfortunately for me, that didn't last, because I had leaky gut and a gut that was very destroyed. So after a couple short weeks, this supplement really started to screw me up. The best I can figure is that it was getting directly into my bloodstream, because every time I took it, I would have a severe panic attack and my blood pressure and heart rate would drop so low, I literally thought my heart was going to stop. There were times where I almost fainted and couldn't even stand up. All right, so if you have leaky gut, proceed with caution. And because of that, I cannot recommend this supplement. But after all those very hard lessons, I ended up finding out that the best way to absorb magnesium was through the skin. Transdermal absorption. All right, once I started incorporating that, it changed the game. I saw immediate improvements. But keep in mind that it can take a very long time to fully restore magnesium in the body. All right, because as I mentioned, it gets stored in the bones and the tissues. So replenishing that can take quite a bit of time. It's not just going to magically restock itself after a week or two. But using magnesium on my skin consistently for about a year did the trick for me. It fully resolved my heart issue and fixed every magnesium related issue I was dealing with, and I've used it daily ever since, and I will never stop. This is very important to me, and I do not leave the house without it. And the great thing about transdermal magnesium therapy is that your body only absorbs what it needs, and it knows exactly what to do with it once it enters your body, so it tends to be very safe. Now, there's a few very simple ways to do this, and I've tried pretty much all of them. One of the biggest issues I have with pretty much all the DIY stuff and all the products currently on the market is they can dry your skin out and make it itch or burn. So for that reason, I decided to make my own that doesn't have those problems, and that's what I use now. Now, I will be sharing that product with everybody soon, but in the meantime, what I used for quite a while and found to be the most beneficial was dissolved magnesium chloride, aka magnesium bath flakes. Now, to make this, it's very, very simple. You can just do 1/4 to 1/2 cup of flakes dissolved in some warm water and do a foot soak, or you can add 1 to 2 cups to your bath water and do a full body soak. Personally, I just mix 1 cup of flakes and 1 cup of warm water, stir until dissolved. I put that in a spray bottle and I spray it on my calves when I wake up, then again before I go to bed. Like I mentioned, it can dry your skin out, but if you follow it up with some non-toxic moisturizer or some tallow, that can help a lot. Now, you can also use Epsom salts and do the exact same thing in the exact same ratios. The only difference is that Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate, which isn't quite as bioavailable as magnesium chloride, but it still works and it is extremely cheap. On average, you can get Epsom salts for about $1 a pound. Way cheaper than supplements. Not to mention, it's safer and more effective, so it's a win all the way around. Now, with that said, there's a lot of factors to consider when trying to boost your magnesium levels, and if you drink alcohol or you're taking certain medications, have certain health conditions, or are under constant stress, it's going to be an uphill battle. So sorting those things out will help you optimize everything. But I found that by boosting your magnesium levels, many of the issues you're dealing with will become much easier to manage and treat. So these things kind of go hand in hand, and one can really affect the other. Now, if your diet is trash, that can be a really good place to start. Cutting out toxic foods and centering your diet around meat and other nutrient-dense whole foods will give your body everything it needs to start to repair itself. Then, once you start doing this daily or as often as possible, it'll help restore your magnesium levels and set you up for success. I can say that for me personally, adding daily magnesium therapy to my routine in conjunction with carnivore saved my life 100% because I blatantly refused the procedures my cardiologist was pushing. And if my deficiency continued to progress, it would have killed me. No doubt about it. And if I had gone through with those procedures, that probably still would have happened because they weren't addressing the root cause. And we all know that the only way to truly heal is to address the root cause. So for me, you, and everyone else, magnesium truly is the mineral of life. And without it, none of us would be here. So if you think you're in that 80% of the population that's suffering from an underlying magnesium deficiency and you're looking to improve your health and overall well-being, look into it because it could be a great place to start. It definitely was for me. So be sure to leave a comment down below and let me know if you found this helpful. I appreciate the feedback and love reading your stories, and your comments really help these videos reach more people, which is awesome because that's more people we can help. And when it comes to important topics like this, that's an amazing thing. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to like, subscribe, join the Apex tribe, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, peace out.